Okay, we're getting into a doozy here, and I know this is a thing that a lot of teams' fan bases have talked about, but because I'm biased, we're making this video in the way that we are. So, we are continuing today's show with a conversation on one of the most controversial players over the past few months, none other than former Chicago Blackhawk and current free agent Corey Perry. Because there was an article published earlier in the week by Elliotte Friedman which deemed that Corey Perry is now eligible to re-sign with NHL teams and continue playing for 23-24. I didn't make a video about that entire thing because if you actually read the piece, it doesn't actually reveal anything that we didn't know before. Like, it just kind of says, oh yeah, Corey Perry met with Gary Bettman, and Gary Bettman gave the go-ahead. But even in the article, if you read it, Elliotte Friedman says that it's not like there was any prohibition from the NHL on Corey Perry. It's just that Corey Perry himself wanted an audience with Gary Bettman, which is why that got sorted out, and it's why now he's eligible to sign. And because he is now technically in the world of impunity, there have been conversations by most teams' fan bases as to whether or not their team should go out there and sign this guy for cheap. As we had said in the previous few videos talking about Corey Perry, he was good this season. Like, all incidents and Connor Bedard, whatever aside, Corey Perry had 9 points in 16 games played. It's a pretty good rebound off of the 25-point season he had last year in Tampa Bay, and he had 40 points the year before that. Corey Perry, for all intents and purposes, has been a pretty good hockey player for the services he provides. And it's not like he's going to come out here, get back onto the free agent market, and sign a big money, big year deal. No, he's probably going to finish off 23-24 on some measly less than $1 million contract because circumstantially, a lot of these teams are maxed out, a lot of these teams have committed money elsewhere, and Perry is coming off of a huge controversy which is going to hinder his ability to make as much dollars as possible for this season. All he could really hope for is to sign somewhere, have a pretty good run, and then become a free agent in the offseason and sign for money elsewhere then. That is probably the realistic timeline for this player, and when it comes to which teams are available, which teams could be interested, and which teams I wanted to talk about, we got two in the chopping block that I think would make for some interesting content here. Firstly, we have ourselves the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the reason we're talking about this is because we had ourselves a First Up 1050 segment where Mike Johnson goes out there and talks about whether or not the Leafs should be interested in Corey Perry. This was from earlier this morning, and I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go ahead and listen to the audio. But part of the reason this was an interesting conversation point was because you had Carly Koliakovo go out there and respond to this idea. Take a look at the tweet that he made to promote this audio. My understanding is there's mutual interest between the Leafs and Corey Perry, and we discussed that with Mike Johnson. There is a really interesting conversation to be had about Corey Perry and some sort of mutual interest with Toronto. This is interesting because if you talk about the type of player profile that the Leafs were interested in acquiring this previous offseason, sure, you got your big money guys, you got the guys you needed to re-sign, Austin Matthews got money, William Nylander just got money, but the extra pieces, you know, the Ryan Reeves of the world, the Tyler Bertuzzis, the Max Domis, you could see that there was a very particular type of profile and status level that Brad Treliving was going out there and looking for in these players. He wanted the guys that in some cases could score, in some cases could produce offense, and could play make and do some pretty good things, but also guys who annoyed the hell out of their opponents and who were pests. This is what Treliving wanted, and it's what he got. And, you know, to varying degrees of success, that's kind of how things have been going in the Toronto Maple Leafs organization. If you wanted to say Corey Perry fits that bill, then hey, he kind of does. He's also a pest. Perry is also annoying as hell to play against. He is also somebody that other teams will absolutely hate when they're playing against him, and if there is some sort of mutual interest where he would like to go over to Toronto, it would be a pretty interesting kind of collaboration there, especially considering the goal-scoring talent, you know? Corey Perry was a 50-goal Rocket Richard winning guy. You've got Austin Matthews, who was also a 50-goal Rocket Richard winning guy. I get it, they're separated by like a decade or two, but still, there's a lot to happen there. And if you wanted to throw Corey Perry on your top power play unit, which I don't know if they will, but first unit, second unit, net front presence, Corey Perry is a master in that position, and he has made a living in front of the net the past few years, since his roles as a pure 50-goal sniper are not really there anymore. You can take all this and apply it to a different conversation as well, because aside from the Toronto Maple Leafs, I also wanted to talk about the Vancouver Canucks. Now, part of this is because of a conversation I saw on the subreddit. Take a look at this post made by Canucks Fan 2018 on our Canucks. Corey Perry. Now that Bettman has allowed him to sign with another team, should the Canucks add him to the roster? Cap implications aside and what it would take to make it work, I'm simply asking if you think he'd be a good fit and add value. Why or why not? I think he absolutely would. Veteran guy with multiple cups, knows what it takes to win in the playoffs, exactly the style of game this management group would want to expand on our playoff run. Is he a rat? Yeah, and you need rats for playoff success. Now pause, Corey Perry only has one Stanley Cup, which he won in 2007. He's made the finals 3 other times though, so there's kind of the misconception. And a lot of these comments go out there and say similar things. I don't see the fit. He simply isn't the top 6 forward anymore, and our bottom 6 wingers are performing excellently. Breaking up your third line is a bad idea, and Hoggy and Lafferty are more than pulling their weight. The cap maneuvering to sign him is better saved for the deadline to pick up a second-line center or an actual top 6 winger. An interesting reply goes out there and says, hey, Corey Perry is like 2011 Lapierre, but better. And that's an idea that I thought was really interesting. Maxime Lapierre, if some of y'all are familiar with, was one of the most underrated and utilized guys, especially towards the end there. He scored the game-winning goal in Game 5 of the finals, and that was one of the most legendary moments of his career. 1-0 shutout for Roberto Luongo in Rogers Arena. But I digress. Another reply goes out there and says, yeah, if this was for league minimum, 100% yes, I would take Corey Perry. Another comment says, I'd give him a chance on a league minimum 1-year contract, with the understanding that he has a short leash behavior-wise. Perry has been very effective as a two-way forward, and he would instantly be our most playoff experienced forward, which would help our young guys a lot. Our bottom 6 could use the depth, and having Perry on the 4th line means Tocchet can afford to let Hoggy play in the 2nd line if Kuzmenko gets scratched again. Another reply says, no, I don't think he could really keep up with the fast pace that our bottom 6 plays with. Also, I think some guys on Abbey are deserving of a shot with the club. To be honest though, devil's advocate to that, I'd rather have Perry in the press box than guys like Oman or Baines. He has playoff experience and plays a gritty game that may be a missing piece for us in a long playoff series. I don't think we get him, but I would take him come playoff time over guys in Abbey who don't have much NHL experience. And so, when it comes to my opinion, I thought it was a really interesting idea to bring up because Perry would make the team better. He technically would be. But the Canucks are second in the NHL in total points and points percentage, I think, right now. So, do you really need him? Also, if you wanted to go over to postseason mode and talk about guys who can just stir crap up, sure, you've got Dakota Joshua, you've got some of the other snarl out of guys like JT Miller, Elias Pettersson can be nasty once in a while. If you wanted to get extra dirty, extra shovey, extra pushy, extra hitty, then Corey Perry could be your guy. Just saying. And if there is any interest in him going over to a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs, I would not be surprised if there's any interest with the Vancouver Canucks too. Anything Toronto can do, Vancouver can do maybe a bit better. Sure, you could say top-end talent, Toronto has the edge there, but it's not by much. And when it comes to team success, team structure, team pace, Vancouver, I'd say, has the Leafs beat in those categories this season alone. So if a guy like Corey Perry wants to go to a big-money Canadian market, like he had in Montreal, then Toronto or Vancouver, these teams are right there for the taking. There's a spotlight and there are spots open for guys like this. I'm sorry, but if a Corey Perry comes over to Vancouver, I feel like I'd honestly be pretty ecstatic, but that's just me. So you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about, firstly, the mutual interest between the Toronto Maple Leafs and Corey Perry, and whether or not you think this would be an appropriate signing for a team like the Vancouver Canucks. If you're a Canucks fan, let me know your thoughts as to how you think Corey Perry could, would, or should fare with this team. Where does he go on the power play? Does he play with that third line? Does he break up Dakota Joshua, Connor Garland, and Teddy Bluger? You have him as a fourth line guy? What's the situation like there? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.